So the best way and most efficient way of growing your glutes and your quads, Bulgarian split squats by wearing roller skates while balancing a 60-kilo dumbbell in one hand, a 20-kilo plate on your head, and reciting the periodic table backwards. So guys, today I'm going to come and talk to you about paralysis by analysis, or in other terms, just simply overcomplicating something that can be very, very simple. It doesn't need to be that intense. It doesn't need to be that overthought. And this is something that I find within the fitness industry or bodybuilding, wherever you want to categorize it as, is something that is very, very common. People like to overcomplicate. They like to overanalyze. They like to think that everything that requires effort or requires focus has to be done at the most intense and most complicated way possible. Now, in a nutshell, yes, there are complexities of what we do, but it's actually pretty simple to grow muscle or to diet down or to get efficient and strong at certain movements. It's actually all about being consistent and being patient, in a nutshell. Now, the paralysis by analysis. This is something that 9 times out of 10 will actually hold you back from progressing more than anything else. So let's go back to the beautiful split squat scenario that I gave you. No one's going to fucking do a split squat in roller skates for a start. However, I'm sure there's something on social media somewhere that says if you do a split squat in roller skates, you're recruiting far more motor neurons and it will literally give you more hypertrophy. I'm sure there's somewhere. Like, you see these guys doing these Bosu squats with like barbell squats on their back. It makes no sense. Anything is fucking dangerous. But people believe it's the most effective and efficient way of growing because it's harder, it's complicated. I have no idea. However, your body has no idea the difference between a squat, a deadlift, a bench press, a fly. It has no idea what an exercise is. Your body is not going to sit there and go through your training program and know what's coming. It's not going to register, oh, okay, today we're doing chest fly superset with press ups. It just knows that you're working your chest. It knows that the chest is under stress. Therefore, it will adapt and it will respond to that stress. So balancing like roller skates and weight vested hang from your nose, like it makes no sense at all. I'm not saying anybody's hanging anything from their nose, but the more complicated you make it, one, the harder you are going to progress it, and two, you're overcomplicating a situation that is actually quite simple. So let's break it down a little bit. Obviously, yes, there are complexities to training. You've got resistance profiles of machines. You've got strength profiles of the physique. We don't really want to kind of go down that route. We're trying to keep it quite simple. Once you understand those mechanisms, they are very simple as well. But I want to try and take people away from the ideology of to grow and be strong, you have to do these big, crazy, heavy lifts such as deadlifts, squats, bench press. They, one, come with very, very high levels of risk to injury, risk to fatigue management, risk to recovery. When in actual fact, you can do something far, far less, quote unquote, intrusive on your recovery and still get the same benefits. Now, what do I mean by that? So a barbell squat is going to absolutely rattle your central nervous system. It's a big, heavy movement. There is a lot of bracing technique that comes involved in it. It's a lot of neurological fatigue as well. That's a big, heavy lift. From the moment you unrack that bar to the moment you put that bar back, there are so many moving components that you have to think about, besides wearing roller skates. If you break it down and think, what is the body actually doing here? So we're bending the knees and we're extending the knees and basically pushing your ass out, so extending in the hips. Now, you can do that in many, many different ways. You can do a leg extension, you can do a lunge, you can do a walking lunge, you can do an RDL, you could do a 45-degree hip extension, you could do a hip thrust. There's so many different movements that will imitate the same body movement with far, far less fatigue, far, far less risk to injury, far less risk to recovery, or that's going to be detrimental to the recovery for the rest of the week. So it's just about knowing it doesn't have to be this is the most efficient way of doing it. And you have to go through these long list of complexities to then try and grow a pound of muscle. You can do it in a most efficient and effective way. You just have to find that best way for you. What exercises do you like? What are you most consistent at? What is an exercise that you can take, progress, and get really fucking strong at that isn't going to impact the rest of your workout? Now, the term paralysis by analysis can be applied to anything. Now, I've seen this with people with diet. I've seen this people with their performance enhancing drugs. I've seen it with sleep. I've seen it in so many avenues of training progression. If you keep it simple, you will progress. Yes, like I keep saying, there are many complexities to training, recovery, food, drugs. Of course, it's not a walk in the park, but the over-analysis of what you might be doing is potentially the thing that's holding you back. So execution or muscle engagement, for example. This is another one that I actually had this yesterday. A client of mine messaged and said they could no longer feel their hamstrings on certain movements. So the movements were squat and leg press. Now, you're probably not going to feel 100% engagement in your hamstrings on those movements because they're big, heavy movements. They're not a hamstring isolation movement. You might feel some stretch in the eccentric. You might feel some stretch and load in the lower portion of the movement, but you're not necessarily going to feel engagement the whole way through. However, take that movement to a standing single leg curl or a laying hamstring curl. Of course, you're going to feel the hamstring the whole way through because you're in a very harsh stretch position. You're in a 100% hamstring focused movement. Of course, you're going to feel it more in that. Doesn't mean they're not being worked in the other movements. Doesn't mean they're not going to grow in the other movements. So to sit there and think that within these movements, you must feel a said muscle 100% of the time, you're probably going to be holding back a little bit because you're going to be thinking about engagement. You're going to be thinking about why is the muscle not firing? If you are moving, the muscle is working 100%. It's impossible to not to. Otherwise, if your muscles weren't working, you would literally collapse in a heap on the floor because they are what hold us together. So I think just taking a back seat on the analysis side of things, taking a back seat on overthinking, and just simplifying certain parts of your process is going to make and help you progress even further and stop you from overthinking and holding back and questioning your program, questioning your sleep, questioning your food. As long as you are being consistent with said part of your training or of your food, you will progress. You just need to be patient and you need to be consistent. If you consistently analyze and question and change and hold back because of engagement or said equipment or programming is the best way of doing it, and you're constantly swapping and changing, you're never going to see the most progress because you're always being inconsistent with those fundamental variables. So guys, that is another video for you. Paralysis by analysis. Anything I can do to help or any questions you have following the back of this video, please feel free to message anytime. Much love, stay blessed, and I will see you all soon.